it before, but just by the title and the book cover, what do you guys think this might be about?
Apple tree.
Yeah.
About Johnny.
About Johnny?
And like how he grows the cheese with apples.
Yeah. So I think you're right. I think it's a good chance that it might be about Johnny and the apple trees, right? It's Johnny Appleseed, right? If you can believe it, there was once a time when there was no apple trees. Well, that's not exactly true. Of course, there were apple trees some places in the world. There were even apple trees some places in America. But in the 1800s, there were lots of places in this fine land where there was just no apple trees at all. In the Ohio River Valley was one of them until Johnny Appleseed came along. So right here you can see the field. And that's what it looked like. A lot of that land was open for farming, so they didn't have any apple trees. There were oak trees that dropped acorns on the ground. The squirrels picked them up in their teeth and stored them away from the winter dinner. And that was fine for the squirrels. But whoever heard of an acorn pie, and whoever walked along a country path on a cool fall day and bit into a big juicy acorn, there were strong elm trees for children to climb, and the elm trees are good for climbing. They're good for building tree houses. They're very good for sitting under on a hot day when the shade of their leaves keeps the ground cool. But there is one thing elm trees are not good for, and that's for growing apples. There were chestnut trees and maple trees, and well, there were all kinds of trees, but in most places there weren't any apple trees, not a single one. So what kind of trees were they? Do you guys remember? There were maple trees and elm trees. Have you guys ever tried to climb a tree before?
Yeah.
It's fun, ain't it? But there were no apple trees. Do you guys like apples?
Yeah.
I like apples too. It wasn't that people didn't want apples, but there just weren't a lot of things to think about back then. There was land to be cleared for farms. There were fields to be plowed and crops to be planted. Towns had to be built and mayors elected. With all that to do and more, it just seemed that nobody had time to worry about apple trees. Well, almost nobody. So they were worried about, what were they worried about?
The farm.
Yeah, they're worried about farming, right? Plowing that land. There was one man who took the time. His name was John Chapman. He decided that the world would be a better place if there were more apples. He was a man who thought a lot about making the world a better place. He believed a lot of things should be changed, and some of them were big things. But the big things would take a long time. And then one day he thought about apples. He was just sitting there in his room with all his books around him when he got the idea. He knew about apples because he was from New England, where there were apples. The first settlers in the new land had brought Appleseed with them from their homeland across the sea. Apples seemed to like America as much as the settlers liked them. Trees were planted and they bloomed and grew heavy with fruit, and apples became a part of life in New England. The settlers made cider and sauce and pies. They gave apples to Indians who loved them and grew their own trees. So who brought over apples? Yeah, John Chapman, right? He brought over apples. Where's he from? New England. He brought them to New England. He planted on what kind of things do you guys like planting apples? There's a lot.
Yeah, candy apples.
Candy apples? Caramel on it? You guys like applesauce?
Yeah.
I like that I do fried apples sometimes. I like fried apples. That is what John Chapman knew about apples. And that he thought it is the way it could be further west in America along the Ohio River Valley. Maybe he couldn't beat all the hungry people in the world, and maybe he couldn't stop people from robbing and hurting each other, but he could plant apple trees. So that was something he could do to help others, right? Plant apple trees. Now, some people, if they had the idea that there should be more apple trees, would have thought about it this way. I'm just one person. Okay? This job needs a lot of people, so I'll go out and organize things. I'll convince hundreds of people to join in. I'll raise money and I'll write stories for the newspapers, and I'll try to get people to vote for more apple trees. But that wasn't the way John Chapman did things. John Chapman put a few things into a pack on his backpack, an extra shirt, a pan for cooking food, over his campfire, and a book or two. Then he went to a place where there were already apples. He looked up a cider mill. I could use those seeds, he told the owner of the mill. The man looked down at the barrel of pulp, all that was left after he had pressed all the juice of the apples. You want the seeds, he asked? Nobody ever wants the seeds. Some people feed this stuff to their pigs, but nobody wants the seeds. I do, said John Chapman. Well, said the mill owner, if you pick them out, you can have them. He went to a cider mill again. That's where he got the seeds to plant apples. So John Chapman got his first batch of seeds, and he went out on the road all up and down the Ohio River Valley. He walked and he got rides from wagons that were going his way. He went through the heat of summer and the snowy cold of winter, and all along the way he planted apple seeds. So where did he plant these apple seeds at? So they said that he planted them along the Ohio River Valley. Sometimes John would stop at a farm and work for a few days. He'd work hard, and all he ever asked for in return would be his meals and a place to sleep. More often than not, the place to sleep would be in a barn. He had some long talks with cows. Before he left, he always planted a few seeds. Years later, the family went on that farm would be picking apples in the fall and waiting for the apple blossoms to bloom in the spring. So where did he sleep at? Your barn? Yeah, he slept in the barn whenever he would go plant the apple seeds. Sometimes John would take a job in town for a bit. Maybe he'd work for a while at a lumber mill. Maybe he'd help a blacksmith in his shop. Whatever he did, he'd work for a little cash and then go back on the road. He never stayed anywhere for very long. He had work to do. Of course, he had to go back from time to time to plant seeds at places where there were apple trees. He had to get more seeds on his way. he sometimes stopped to take care of the trees he planted from years before. So there he is, working as a blacksmith. As the years passed, people started to hear about John Chapman. He would go into the town and people would know right off who he was. Children would recognize his tall, black hat and the full pack on his back and his walking sticks carved from the branch of an apple tree. They would call out to him as he walked by, "Johnny Appleseed." They would shout, "Johnny Appleseed." And John Chapman would wave at them and smile. After a while, it was as though Johnny Appleseed had always been his name. And the people started telling stories about Johnny Appleseed. Some people claimed that his hat got so full of apple seeds that he had to work his saucepan like a hat. Not all of the stories were true, but they showed that people thought that he was someone special. Oh, maybe he was a little strange. After all, here was a man who had been to school and read books, and now he was wandering along the countryside like some trail. Why in the world would a man do that? But on the other hand, there were all those people, all those apple trees, and there wouldn't have been there if he hadn't been for Johnny Appleseed. By the time Johnny Appleseed had finished this work, years and years later, there were apple trees all over the Ohio River Valley. There were farms with orchards up near the house, and inside the house, the smell of fresh apple pie would greet the farmer after a hard day's work. There were apple trees by the side of the road, and hungry travelers would stop and pick an apple and go on their way a little happier. If you didn't think about it, it seemed as though there had always been apple trees all over the place. And most people didn't think about it, but John Chapman had been right. The world was a better place. Right. So, what was his name again? Yeah, Johnny Appleseed, but what was his real name? That's what a nickname is, right? Yeah, John Chapman. That was his name. He came from New England. He came over here, and there were no apples. So he took it upon himself to go down the Ohio River Valley to plant seeds, right? And then that's where apples. Well, I mean, we see apples everywhere, don't we? Yeah. I love apples. So if it wasn't for Johnny Appleseed, he might not have apples over here, so good. Thank you guys for listening. You guys are so